Hey everyone, Sen here. A few days ago I watched a video by NSW Transport named The Western Sydney Airport Metro Huge Updates. I thought that overall it was a good video, however the proposals had a lot of issues that I felt I needed to critique. As someone who looked at this project already, check out the video at the top for more. I want to make it clear that this is not an attack on this creator or their content, but rather on the claims made, and I believe it is the right decision to make this video to inform others both old and new in the transport and urban planning spaces. I wasn't planning on making this video, so you'll have to wait just a bit longer for the second part of the video essay, but it's in development as I speak, so you shouldn't have to wait much longer for that. Let's get into this, shall we? Dissecting Proposal 1 first, a small point to make is the lack of labels on this map compared to the second proposal we will look at in a minute. This would have helped to analyse the proposal slightly easier, as it's unknown if your proposal suggests a line as an M1 or M2 extension. It's not that major of an issue, but consistency with proposals does help. However, generally, this map is good for the proposals we've suggested, even if not the ideal go for Transport for New South Wales and the New South Wales Government. Next, I want to analyse something stated in this video. That being, quote, Rossmore Yard would not be affected by this extension, end quote. This may not be entirely correct. Research papers and proposals released from New South Wales Transport on the south extension of this line have suggested building future stations as part of this extension, at either Rossmore, Bradfield South, or both. I am unsure if this detail was dismissed due to limited research occurring, or if it was a deliberate decision. However, I personally believe that if an extension were to happen, it would make more sense to have Rossmore available for a future station, whether on the heavy rail Sydney Trains network or a part of the Sydney Metro network. Another statement I want to analyse is, quote, I'm actually very surprised that this wasn't in the original planning, end quote. This statement is completely false. There have been research reports released as a result of the Sydney Metro Western Sydney Airport line, where the outcome of the papers suggests a potential route of where the extensions could go. One suggested section is the extension of the South West Rail Link or SWRL to Western Sydney International Airport as either a metro or heavy rail line, and eventually updated in a paper around July 2025 suggesting a heavy rail line to Bradfield South is the better option for the rail network and metro project, to not cause branch metro lines, which is a different issue I won't mention in this video. Overall, this map is alright, but a bit of extra research may have helped make a proposal stronger statement if suggested prior to the business case conducted in 2022. Now moving on to Proposal 2, there are a lot of issues that we need to delve into that were never addressed in this video. First off, the M1 and the current state of Sydney Metro lines can't extend as that line to the new airport, since they will both run on different electrification standards, therefore needing to have a separate line, most likely starting from either Schofield or St Mary's depending how they choose to do it. This means that the M2 is almost forced to exist, which contradicts your map. Just keep in mind electrification standards are an issue for proposing lines throughout Sydney or other transport heavy Sydneys, though I do agree that it should have been one entire line from Macarthur to Bankstown via the city, Tallawong and Western Sydney Airport. The reasoning for the link to Macarthur and Tallawong instead of Leppington is due to better servicing of suburbs in outer Western Sydney to the airport and between regions such as the Southwest Sydney and the Hills District. If you research the plans for the Western Sydney International Metro, the ideal line chosen was a north-south link from Macarthur to Tallawong via Western Sydney Airport. However, it had to be in stages, which is why many assumed the Leppington extension would have been better than what we will be getting in 2027. Extending to Leppington may not have been the best decision when the line is eventually completed in 20 or so years, which is why they made the Metro go where it plans to go in the confirmed plans in 2025's business case. I also want to mention that Transport for New South Wales will be extending the T2 and T5 lines from Leppington to Bradfield South and connecting the existing Metro to Bradfield South for such an interchange as soon as the Western Sydney International Metro is completed for Stage 1. Small point on this as well, while I love the idea of making the T8 go to Leppington and the T2 back to Campbelltown as it was pre-2015, having T8 services go both to Macarthur and Campbelltown as well as the Western Sydney International Airport via Leppington in the peak just seems like too much hassle for the existing network. This could also mean that the T8 would somehow have branch lines at peak hours, which would make for an already tricky network even more convoluted due to moving certain trains to different terminus when the current T2 and T8 alignments work fine. This also means that in the peak hours when the trains would divert to different terminus, it could also lead to decreased trains per hour, potentially going as far back as one train every 20 to 30 minutes. However, that is nothing more than speculation based on similar experiences on the T4 line for the Cronulla and Waterfall branches past Sutherland. Rossmore in this proposal isn't a station, which is understandable. However, partly a poor planning decision when it could be a good station location for future medium density developments similar to what is seen at Edmondson Park, a station in close proximity to Rossmore. A potential workaround, which would cost a bit of extra money, would be to convert the Rossmore yard into a station and relocate the yard a bit further north of its current location, where 2-track alignment, one in and one out of the yard, to still assist with storing trains somewhere each night. It could also be stored at different depots around Sydney if the yard was only converted to a station and not rebuilt. This isn't an issue per se on this proposal, but more of a consideration if this was the best plan for the Western Sydney International Metro. I'd love to know why the T5 ends at Leppington but the T8 goes to the airport. Wouldn't the T5 go to the Western Sydney International Airport as well, besides construction costs of having multiple lines terminate at the airport, as well as the upcoming Western Sydney Airport Metro line? It also raises another issue, which is how would an airport that is already built with both the plane and metro infrastructure operating be able to have construction occur even further underground to implement a Sydney train station box which would be larger than the Sydney Metro station box, platforms, and the rail corridors due to the double deckers being larger in height than the metro rolling stock. This was considered in the initial plans for the line and airport prior to construction, and is why Transport for New South Wales and the New South Wales Government built the metro instead of adding more Sydney trains infrastructure. Certain research papers on this line have indicated that it's easier infrastructure-wise and more cost-efficient to end the heavy rail line at Bradfield South compared to the airport, with the added bonus of having a harder time building a station box for Sydney trains when the airport and metro station have already been entirely completed and functioning by the time the construction occurred. Something small as well that many in the transport space have mentioned about the Leppington extension and needs to be stated is not needing a train between Kingsford Smith and Nancy Bird Walton airports, since Sydney isn't a transiting city. The T8 from the proposed Bradfield South Station to Central Station will most likely take about as long as the T8 from Macarthur takes, which is just over an hour, meaning it will negate the time savings compared to the all stops T8 services between Macarthur and Glenfield, then onto the city via airport stations. As well, the T8 and T2 interchange patterns at Glenfield were designed to allow passengers getting on the train at either Leppington or Edmondson Park to change between the T2 and the T8 for the time saved if heading directly into Sydney CBD, rather than the long route of the T2, which adds around 20 minutes to the journey via Granville. It also allows residents between Macarthur and Glenfield to head north towards Granville and the inner west suburbs if they choose to head to that area of Sydney. If all of this is the case, why would the T8 need to go through Leppington instead of Campbelltown? On a positive note, the comment about extra trains could be a good idea for the M1, especially in peak hours. Whether or not this should be looked into is beyond this video, but it's something good from this proposal. I also like that he suggested the Liverpool to Bankstown Metro suggestion originally stated on Transport for New South Wales' future metro map, where it outlined a potential extension of the M1 to Liverpool, but was able to state the construction challenges found once Bankstown's metro conversion was underway, meaning the Liverpool metro extension as of currently will not occur. Finishing off with TSET Transport's conclusion for this video, I want to look at the statement, quote, "I have a pretty high suspicion that a few years after they open the new Western Sydney Airport line, there will be a lot of debate about what the new extension could be, whether it could be what I have proposed so far, extensions down to Macarthur, or even to completely new places that we haven't thought of yet." End quote. There are some small issues with this statement. I'm fairly certain that there will not be debates about where to extend this line, knowing the business case was finalised and published in July 2025, which released its findings about the best course of action for the southern extension. The outcome of the findings stated the terminus at Macarthur Station is ideal for this line's extension. A small semi-researched idea that could have existed, and I'll be talking more on this in a video in 2026, would have the line go down nearby Camden, but with the alignment still terminating at Macarthur Station, servicing more residents in or nearby to Oran Park and Narellan, which have saved space for their eventual metro extensions, more proof that this is the route that Transport for New South Wales and the New South Wales Government have chosen. It makes more sense to do this line. Overall, this proposal has a lot of ambitious ideas, but a lot of flaws to it as well. My biggest piece of advice to TSET Transport, as well as any other urban planning or transport channel creating similar content as this video, is to do some research before suggesting and publishing a proposal online, especially if it can be proven wrong. Apologies if this video was received in a negative way. As a creator myself in this space, I aim to allow for misinformation on these topics to be highlighted and restated factually. I trust in TSET Transport's ability to create informative, engaging, and helpful content in the coming months, and I hope to see more research videos proposals by them. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.